What is going on, everybody? Shwazy here, and in today's video we're talking 6 things that I love and 2 things I don't about the newly facelifted 2024 Mercedes Benz GLS 450. Hey everyone, before we dive into today's video, I want to tell you about Octane Coffee Company. It is the car-themed coffee company with a variety of different roasts paired with iconic names. You've got Big Block, Race Gas, The Goat. It's perfect for early morning cars and coffee or cruises down the canyon. It is the coffee for all car enthusiasts. Pick up your bag at OctaneCoffeeCompany.com, link is down below, and get 10% off your first order using promo code OCTANE10. Now back to the video. Okay, now if you guys are looking for in-depth specifics on this particular vehicle, all of the changes for 2024, the interior, exterior, the tech, well then I recommend you check out my other video where I did a comprehensive overview of the newly facelifted GLS and talk about everything you need to know if you're considering one of these as your next vehicle. The purpose of this video is just to discuss some of the highlights, the things I've loved, things I've disliked on the 2024 GLS 450. Okay, the first thing I love about this vehicle is its interior styling. And if you guys have seen the Mercedes GLE, this looks very similar to that, but that doesn't make it any worse. It is an incredible interior. You got leather surfaces over here, nice wood grain dash with that Burmester audio system. That speaker grill just looks really good. The material quality here is fantastic. All these switches feel really good in the hands. You've got this macchiato beige interior, which looks really good. Now, I don't know how it's going to stand the test of time with like blue jeans and stuff, but it does look good nonetheless. Nice aluminum touches over here, and then climbing inside, you got the illuminated Mercedes Benz logo. Moving up, you've got these macchiato beige leather seats, which look really nice as well. Overall, a light interior always looks really good in vehicles. It's just going to be hard to maintain, but it's definitely worth it because it makes the interior so light and airy. Now, climbing inside, Mercedes does a phenomenal job with their interiors. I think a lot of manufacturers benchmark their interiors based on what Mercedes does. I mean, take a look at all the use of materials. Aluminum bezels over here around the air vents, natural wood grain dash. Again, a little bit more of that aluminum that surrounds this 12.3-inch touchscreen. You got these simulated vents over here on the passenger side. This whole surface is leather touch surfaces, soft touch materials. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And that door panel, the way it kind of fits into the dashboard, looks really good. Moving down here, you've got this wood grain panel that actually opens up. Feels really good in the hands, then extends all the way down here to the center arm console. And then take a look at these toggle switches. They're all aluminum. They feel really good in the hands. Even the ones located over here to control your climate control vents are all very nice to touch, feel very quality. I mean, the interior is really just a cut above. Take a look at the steering wheel. You've got this nice golf ball look to this perforated leather over here. And then it's essentially a 6-spoke steering wheel, but it's actually technically 3 spokes, but they have spaces in between. And then moving above you, even the lights over here on the roof look like little crystals that are glowing. I mean, design is definitely at the forefront when Mercedes is creating a new vehicle. Moving into the back is no exception. Same nice use of materials on the door panel, same macchiato beige seats, and then jumping inside, you have an even better view of that center display, which looks really nice. And then down here, you've got some leather surfaces all throughout. Again, some more aluminum bezels, even on the air vent controller. And then your buttons down here for your 4-zone climate control are also nice and solid and have a good feedback to them. Now, the second thing I love is the ambient lighting of this interior. So kind of goes along hand in hand with the design, but the interior ambient lighting of the GLS is gorgeous. All Mercedes interior ambient lighting is gorgeous, but this is no exception to that. You've got ambient lighting over here on the center grab handle. You've got some over here on the door dash, over in the door handle, even down at your footwell as well. And then of course you have this giant strip that extends all the way from the driver to the passenger side. And then jumping into the second row, you'll notice there's also ambient lighting over here on the door panel, down where the door handle is, and then even at the footwell in the second row. There's even some ambient lighting located underneath here where you have this little compartment for your USB ports underneath the climate control vents. So lots of different touches here, different surfaces. And as you can tell, it actually changes colors as you're driving. So now this is pink and this is pink, whereas before this was blue. Now it's switching. So it's cool that it kind of varies the themes depending on what you select in the infotainment screen. My favorite part about the ambient lighting is if you go into your comfort settings, hit ambient lighting, there's lots of different options here. So first off, you can choose between 64 different colors and it immediately changes the lighting. But as you saw earlier, the colors were changing right in front of our eyes. Well, how do you get that to happen? Well, you hit this multicolor mode and there are 10 different themes that you can choose from. So this one is Malibu Sunset, which kind of gives off a Barbie-like theme to it. There's also Miami Rose. You can choose Jungle Green. So lots of different features here for your interior ambient lighting themes, and essentially that just combines two different colors. So you may have one color over here on the door dash, a different color in the door handle, a different color in the footwell, and as you can see, it does change and vary as you're driving down the road to kind of make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more thematic depending on which one you choose on the screen. There's also something called the ambient lighting effects, and since mine are all on, let me show you what that looks like. So as you change the temperature, you turn it up, it turns red on the side that's turning up the temperature. As you turn it down, it turns blue, but the passenger side remain unchanged. So it's those kind of things that make the interior a little bit more interesting, a little bit more vibrant than just your standard interior ambient lighting. Going on the theme of interior lighting, let's talk exterior lighting. You have this beautiful LED running strip, you got these LEDs here, and then this cool looking headlamp that has 84 LEDs labeled inside of it. And then you've got these blue pieces of glass or trim that make it look really cool and very attractive from the front end. And the rear end is incredibly beautiful too. This has been updated for the 2024 model year, but you have these 3 LED blocks that look really nice lit up. And then turning on your turn signals, it looks really good from that position as well. You'll also notice how this LED strip turns to amber when you have the turn signals on. Looks really good from the front and rear end. Now, the third thing I love about this vehicle is how intuitive the infotainment screen is. So first off, it has voice activation that can answer a multitude of different questions just like your smart home device. Here's an example of that. Hey Mercedes,
how may I help you?
What date is Thanksgiving this year?
Thanksgiving Day this year is Thursday, November 23rd, 2023.
There you go. And just like that, it answers all of your questions. And it can even do stuff like this. Hey Mercedes,
how can I help?
I'm feeling cold.
I'm increasing the temperature to 62 degrees.
So pretty cool things that you can do just using your voice, but there's more to it than just that. So you'll notice at the top of the steering wheel on the right-hand side, there's these set of buttons. Well, these actually control your center infotainment screen. So rather than taking your hands off the steering wheel and manipulating this touchscreen yourself, and maybe, distracting yourself because your hands are going to be off the steering wheel, what you can do is you could keep your hands on the steering wheel and then simply swipe to go through the various different menus. So if you don't want to use your voice, you can just use your thumb to get to pretty much every single menu you can think of on this infotainment screen. But wait, there's more. You can also use the haptic feedback mouse pad that you have over here on the center arm console. So very similar type of maneuvering where you can swipe left, right, and you can go through the various different settings here. But there's also some quick access buttons up top. So of course there's the home button, which gets you back in the center. There's a back button, and then there's this swiping control for your seek and track settings. So you can simply swipe, and you'll notice it'll go through various different stations just by swiping your finger on this mouse pad. But of course, there's a third way to manipulate that screen, and that is using the touchscreen itself. Very easy to use, very responsive, and the software itself is very easy to understand. There's a set of 9 different apps that you can cycle through, and most of them are very intuitive and easy to understand. And then you've got just some sub-menus within here, so that's how you access your ambient lighting, your off-road features. That's pretty self-explanatory. And you've got some most frequently used buttons located underneath the app. So it knows that, you go to the media, you want to hit the play button. Rather than going into the application, you can just click that button and it'll automatically turn on. With your comfort settings, it knows that you turn on the seat kinetics pretty often, and it automatically activated the seat kinetics without having me going into this menu and actually selecting the seat kinetics function. So very easy system to use, and the Android Auto is seamlessly accessible by just pushing this button in the corner, and it easily transitions between the two softwares. Now there's actually a fourth way to manipulate your audio, and that has to do with the buttons on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. So as you can see, this is how you control this 12.3-inch instrument gauge cluster display. And now I've navigated to the audio section of my sub-menus, and when I get there, I can simply swipe to go through all the various radio stations, similar to how I would do on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. So lots of redundancy built into the Mercedes GLS. Now, contrary to a lot of German vehicles, the next thing I love about the GLS is how many features come standard on the base trim level of the 450. First off, those LED headlights and taillights that I was showing you, that comes standard on every single trim level. Also, air suspension is standard on every single GLS. Now, moving into the trunk area, there's a couple standard features here that will actually surprise you. First off, you have a button over here on the right-hand side to raise and lower the suspension so that it's easier to load big, heavy objects into the trunk. And as you can see, It's actually lowering the height of this vehicle, and it does it pretty quickly. Okay, now that it's reached the lowest height and you load some 2x4s or a fridge or something back here, then you can push that button and deactivate it, and it will raise this vehicle back up. So pretty cool that it uses the air suspension to quickly raise and lower the vehicle. Next, let's talk about the set of buttons located to the left of the air suspension, and that is the buttons to raise and lower the third row seats. So I've raised up these headrests, and now I simply push on this button and let go, and it will automatically lower the headrest and even move the second row passenger seat a little bit forward if necessary to lower that third row. And then I can do the same thing on the left-hand side by pushing the button furthest most away from me. And there it goes, automatically lowering the third row. Now you can actually remove this tonneau cover and hide it underneath your trunk floor over here. There's actually a slot for you to stick it in. So you can get quite a bit amount of space behind the second row. I think you're talking about 43 cubic feet of space back there. But let's say you want to lower the second row. You don't want to go all the way to the outside. Well, there's another set of buttons on the left-hand side that function exactly the same. So we're gonna hit this button on the left-hand side, and it automatically moves the seat back and slides it forward, giving you greater access into this large trunk area. And then the same thing on the right-hand side. And as you can see, it will start lowering the second row seats. If you want to raise those back up, on most cars, you have to go outside and open it up. Whereas here, you simply pull on these switches, and it will start raising up the seats. And it does it relatively quickly as well, which is pretty surprising. And just like that, with the push of 4 buttons in the trunk area, you have all 4 seats back up in their original position. So not only is that feature standard, but automatic second row seats is also a standard no-cost option. So you can get the GLS either equipped with a center bench seat, or for no additional cost, you can get these captain's chair setup, where these now become power assisted seats. So you can use the buttons over here on the door panel, similar to how you do on the front row, and you can slide these seats forward, you can slide them back, you can recline them. So much functionality here. You can even move the headrest. Personally, I would option for this captain's chair setup if you don't need seating for 7, because it just makes these seats so much more functional, and you can make these micro adjustments using the power seat function, and there's still a good amount of space over here in the center. But also standard on all GLSs, if you choose this captain chair setup, is you pull this button and it will automatically slide the seat forward, giving you greater access into the third row. It will even move the passenger seat a little bit more forward if necessary to give you that extra space. And that's quite a bit of space to get into the third row. And then you can simply hold this button, and then we'll automatically retract back to its original position. So it's kind of amazing that this comes standard on any GLS model. Also, every GLS comes with 4-zone climate control. So even your second row passengers, each driver and passenger side has its own climate settings, its own airflow, and you even have an automatic climate control in the second row. That's pretty impressive. Also, every single GLS comes with this large panoramic sunroof, and it actually opens up as well. So it's not just a large glass panel roof, but plenty of sunlight on the interior, and you have a sunshade when you kind of want to hide away from the sun. In addition, all GLS come with this 360-degree camera, which has been updated for 2024 model year with this 3D mode. So now you can float around the vehicle as if a drone has flown out and actually taken footage of this car. I mean, that camera quality is fantastic. Personally, I use this bird's eye view a little bit more because it doesn't distort the image as much, but in either case, there's so many different angles that you can cycle through. You can see exactly where the curb is. You can see when you're towing something, how to hook it up. You can also set certain destinations to automatically turn on your 360-degree camera when you approach that area. Also, if you go into your off-road mode, there's another secret feature of this 360 camera. If you click this button over here at the bottom, it will show you what's going on underneath the car. Now, it takes a second and a few feet of you to start moving, but once you start moving this vehicle, it essentially takes a photo of everything going on in front and transplants it underneath. So if you're rock crawling, you know exactly where the rock is relative to the underbody of the vehicle. You also get a pretty decent amount of safety tech as standard, including blind spot monitoring, emergency braking, automatic high beams. So this car does come packed with some pretty nice technology right out of the gate. Now, the next feature I love about this vehicle has to do with how quiet and composed this car is when you're driving down the road. So you can be going 60 miles an hour and You won't be able to hear any of the wind noise, any of the tire noise. It's an incredibly quiet and composed cabin. And on top of that, when you're driving over speed bumps, you can barely notice them. The fact that you're driving on 21-inch wheels in this car and it soaks up bumps so well is truly impressive. And this isn't the one with the advanced airmatic suspension that will automatically read the road. This is just your regular suspension that comes on every single GLS. Now that leads me into the next thing I love about this vehicle, and we're gonna put this thing into sport mode, and we're gonna talk about the engine, because that's the next thing I really love about the GLS 450. So here we are entering a freeway on-ramp. I'm going to gun it. And then we made it to 70 miles an hour. We made it to the speed limit. I mean, this engine is surprisingly quick. I mean, this is the base entry-level engine. This isn't any type of upgraded AMG or anything like that. There's not even any modifications to it. This is just your standard 3-liter inline-6 turbocharged engine with that mild hybrid system. And because that mild hybrid system gives you a little bit of extra horsepower, a little bit extra boost, this thing is actually really quick. I don't think you really need a V8 engine in this thing. You definitely have to test drive it to believe it for yourself, but let me just downshift real quick. Yeah, it's plenty quick. It can easily have enough power to pass people on the freeway, accelerate on an on-ramp. I really have no issues with this engine. It's fantastic. Now, coming back to my other point in terms of quietness, here we are going 66 miles per hour. And you can probably barely hear what's going on outside. I could probably whisper to you and you'd still be able to hear what I'm saying. I mean, it's just an incredibly quiet cabin. Going over bumps or ridges in the freeway or on roads, it doesn't, jostle you inside. It's very composed, very quiet, very luxurious, which is what you would expect from a Mercedes. All right, now let's talk about two things that I wish were a little bit better on the 2024 GLS 450. Okay, now I know I said I love some of the features that come standard right out of the gate on every single trim level of the GLS, but there are 3 features that I think are missing that should probably be included on the base trim level. Now, first, this is a 3-row crossover, but unfortunately, it doesn't come with any type of rear view camera mirror, which surprises me because if you have 2 people sitting in the 3rd row, you're really not going to be able to see outside that rear window. Now, this is a feature that's included on a lot of vehicles nowadays, especially 3-row crossovers. And to my understanding, you can't even equip your GLS with a rear view camera mirror. Now, I haven't seen the 2024 spec sheet. They may have changed that, but in 2023, it does not come standard or even optional on any GLS. Now, even if you can get the rear view camera mirror as an option, I think that should be a standard feature for any crossover that has 3 rows of seats, because it's very difficult to see outside that rear window when you have individuals sitting in the 3rd row. The second feature that I think is missing from the GLS is a household power outlet. So you have a ton of USBs here. So opening this compartment up, there's 2 USBs in here. There's another USB located in the center arm console. There's also 2 more USBs located down here below the climate control vents for the 2nd row passengers. And there's even 4 USB ports located in the 3rd row. You've got 2 on either side of the driver and passenger. And what's odd here is there is no household power outlet. There's nothing down here in this compartment, and there's nothing located here in the trunk. You do have a cigarette style power outlet back here, but that's pretty much it, which is a little odd because even my 2021 Ford Bronco, which is nowhere near as luxurious or as expensive as this, comes with a household power outlet located in the 2nd row. Now, the third missing feature has to do with something in the 3rd row. So climbing back here, something I noticed that's lacking in the 3rd row is a set of air vents. So you have air vents over here in the 2nd row along with ones in the B pillar on the doors, but there's no air vents over here in the 3rd row. There's nothing over here on the C pillar, nothing on the roof. You could argue that the 2nd row passengers, because there's no center bench seat, will get some of that airflow. But in either case, just for 3rd row convenience and comfort, I think a set of air vents is necessary. Now, if you do choose the 5-zone climate control, which is an option on the GLS 450, then you're going to have another set of controls over here for the 3rd row. But I think just having regular air vents is necessary for 3rd row passengers. Okay, now the next feature I dislike about the GLS has to do with its start-stop technology. Now, it's kind of a love-hate relationship here, because on the one hand, the start-stop tech is incredibly smooth and incredibly quiet. I mean, it's hardly noticeable. You can come to a complete stop and the thing will shut off without you even knowing that it's shut off. The only way to tell is because your RPM gauge went down to 0. And the displacement of this engine is relatively small compared to some of its other V8 counterparts, so when it shuts off, it doesn't feel like it stops vibrating the car. I mean, it's very, very smooth. On the other end, the issue I have is, since this start-stop tech actually turns the engine off before you come to a complete stop, there are some instances where, you know, if the car in front of you happens to start accelerating before you come to a complete stop, then this engine will shut off and it'll take a second or two for the engine to kick back on and give you the power you need to start accelerating. Now, here's an example of what I mean. So here we are approaching a red light. We're probably gonna decelerate down to 0 and come to a complete stop. But if for some reason, you know, this light turns green, if my car is already shut off, which it typically shuts off just around 6 miles an hour. So here I am completely shut off at 6 miles per hour, even though I'm still coasting, the engine is not actively working. But if I'm in a situation where the vehicle in front of me starts moving, before I come to a complete stop and I start accelerating on the gas pedal, there's a small delay between the car turning back on and providing power for me to move forward. And it becomes a little bit frustrating when you're kind of standing in traffic and trying to move forward and the car just isn't moving, or there's about a 1 or 2 second delay before the car starts moving. It gets a little bit frustrating, and I kind of wish the start-stop technology would only kick in when I come to a complete stop, because then I actually have to let go of the gas pedal and hit the accelerator, and in that time period, the engine should be able to turn back on. Now, I will say there is a workaround to this, because if you put it into sport mode, this vehicle won't shut off its engine unless you come to a complete stop. But in comfort mode, it will automatically shut off below 6 miles per hour, even though you're still coasting to a complete stop. And there's no other way to shut that feature off unless you click the auto start stop cancel feature, or you put the vehicle in sport mode. Well, there you have it, folks. That was 6 things I love and 2 things I wish were a little bit better on the 2024 GLS 450. Now, overall, this vehicle is very impressive. You get lots of features right out of the gate, and it's a very luxurious and upscale interior and exterior. You've also got a really nice base engine that has plenty of pickup and power to get you from point A to point B, and lots of space on the interior with that 3-row capability and the buttons to automatically raise and lower that large interior cabin. But what are your thoughts on the 2024 GLS? If you are an owner, let me know what you like and dislike down in the comments below, and hit that like button if you guys enjoyed today's video. Also, check me out on all the social media at Shwazy_. Until next time, everybody, I hope you stay Shwazy, stay healthy, have a wonderful day.